A lot of you have a fear of being seen. This is a relatively common thing that people are afraid of being perceived, and it holds you back in a lot of areas. Maybe you don't want to go to your husband's work Christmas party, or you don't want to start that side hustle because it means you would have to do an Instagram account and people might see you, or you hesitate to go to an event at your kid's school because everyone will see you. Maybe you don't love the way you look right now. There's a lot of different forms it can take, especially if you want to do, God forbid, any kind of career like I have where you're really out there a lot. Do not recommend that. That's definitely a thing, is a fear of being perceived. And it might not have clicked for you that you have that fear, but I would say most of us do. And I think it's holding you back more than you think. And so that is what we are going to talk about today: how to be okay with other people perceiving you and seeing you, and all the good and bad things that come with it. Of course, we worry that we will be judged. We worry that people will think bad things about us. We worry that people will say bad things about us, maybe even publicly. There's a lot of fear that comes with it, but this is related to the topic of finding your blue flame, finding that gift that you're meant to share with the world in a special way. It's probably not going to work if you are afraid of being perceived, because the idea of finding your blue flame and doing that work, broadly defined, that you're meant to do is it's an act of love. It's ultimately about love. And in order to love other people, you have to be seen by them. You can't really love other people if you are afraid of them seeing you. And I would suggest that some people are even afraid of being seen or perceived by their own children, by their own family members. So this topic might run deeper than you think, and I think it will be helpful. And I think you will find it interesting. And I think it will make you shake your fist at the heavens and say, how is this podcast free? So that is the main topic. As usual, we always get to the main topic in the second half of the show. I have a prayer request in the first half. We'll kick off the first part of the show with an urgent prayer request for me. We will also talk about, what else? Well, we have a whole grab bag. We have a grab bag of stuff, a cornucopia of abundance of things to talk about. But you know what? None of this matters, because I've decided that Friday is when I will do the next State of the Dumpster Fire Patreon Live. This is available when you join any level of my Patreon. And this is a funny story for you guys. And Caitlin can affirm that I am speaking truth. So I told you that the topic was some financials. Mm-hmm. I am going to show you actual financials, like a statement that I received. In planning for talking about this on Patreon, I have gotten so wound up about this again. I had sort of made peace with it, in the sense that I stuffed it into my subconscious to be fuel for my villain arc for later. But just even thinking about telling you, this will be the most rehearsed Patreon Live anyone has ever done. All I do now is walk around my house and mutter to myself in anger about these numbers. And I go through, there's variety. Like, sometimes I'm angry at myself. Sometimes I'm angry at the people on the other side of the numbers. Sometimes I'm angry at God. I mean, we really, the gang's all here in terms of people I blame for this situation. And it's so funny that I was sort of temporarily over it, or at least not thinking about it. And now fully 30% of my waking hours for the past few days, I am just doing my Patreon Live in my head. I just walk around like, can you believe that? Can you guys believe that? I can't. These are real numbers. Like, this is so. I mean, it will feel like I have done this. I will seem very practiced and very competent on this one, because I've given you guys this info so many times in my head. I'm like, do you believe this
bleep. Like I use I should do a higher level Patreon, the Jen After Dark.
Yes.
Because Caitlin has seen that. Caitlin has seen uncensored Jen. Listen, I learned, it's like I keep my podcast clean, I keep my comedy clean, but it's like if you grew up speaking another language. I didn't grow up using clean language. I worked in the tech world during the .com boom. I've given you guys my spiel in other episodes about how profanity is the language of people under pressure. And so if you have spent a lot of time around people under a lot of pressure, like the companies I work for, the venture capitalists being like, what happened to that $10 million we gave you last week? Some F-bombs get thrown around. So when people, the Jen After Dark is not a clean language experience, especially when I have numbers in front of me that are just unbe-freaking-leavable. So that should be like the $100 a month Patreon. I mean, just the stuff unfiltered. That one's not clean. That one's, we'll do that one. But I will keep it clean as I always do. So it's Friday. I think we're looking at Friday, this coming Friday. That is November 1st. November 1st, Feast of All Saints Day. That'll be the All Saints Day Village Hustle. No, not Village Hustle. I'm sorry. That it will be the All Saints Day State of the Dumpster Fire address. Really one for the ages. One for the ages when you see this. And it will help you to see this Patreon live, because when you see me on the news, when the clips of the multiple police officers taking me into custody go viral and your friends text you and they say, isn't that the, highly successful stand-up comic that you follow? Don't you follow this Jen woman, and it just seems like she's really bad? That's a lot of felonies. And did you see the smoke coming from the building in the background? Like it seems like she's not a good person. If you had seen what I am about to say on Friday, you'd be like, well, if you'd seen the numbers that I had seen, you would feel like this is like she de-escalated the situation. Like anyone else would have done more. And like 7 felonies is the Catholic in her. She was that was the grace of God that she kept it to that level. Only 9 people were injured. Like it was fine. So that's why it's important. And I will make the replay available. So if you are not able to make it on Friday, I don't know what time, but I will put that on Patreon. If you're not able to make it, or if you are hearing this after the fact, that will be archived and you can watch it. And as usual, I don't really care if you want to join the Patreon and just watch my State of the Dumpster Fire addresses and then unsubscribe. I'm mainly trying to keep this off of Google. Although, why would you want to unsubscribe? Because that Patreon is so good. There is so much good content there. This is my daughter Pammy. She's calling me because I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Hey, Pammy, I'm doing the podcast. You're literally live on the podcast. Say hi to my podcast listeners.
Hey, fans, she's doing that on Do Not Disturb, but totally not my fault. Okay, bye, I love you.
Okay. She speaks very quickly. So now you understand what's going on in this family. So to translate Pammy speak, she just said, hey, fans, sorry she didn't put it on Do Not Disturb. Not my fault. Okay, love you, bye. I think she was saying love you to you guys. So anyway, my Patreon is a gem. You can watch that State of the Dumpster Fire address. And I think, Caitlin, have we added tags?
Yes.
Okay. So here, this is another important thing. We now have a tag that I guess you can search. I don't know.
It's under a collection.
It's under what?
Collection.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to go through and watch all my trash talking State of the Dumpster Fire lives, that Caitlin has now tagged them. And it's what? SOTDF?
Sure.
Something like that. Yeah. But you'll see it. It's the only collection we have. So you can go catch up on the archives. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Patreon.com/thisisjen. And you get instant access to all of everything we've ever done. You get instant access when you join. All right, this is the Jen Fulwiler Show, coming to you from Austin, Texas. Texas. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss, who knows that love and family and community are the foundations for all real success. It's also that you learn so much. I mean, you learn how to step into your villain era. You learn that you're not failing as much as you think you are, that your life is harder than you realize that it is, and you're probably actually doing a much better job than you think you are. We publish new episodes every Wednesday morning. Caitlin White is our lovely producer. This is also the only podcast where I cook for a whole lot of people before every episode, because I cook for my kids. Caitlin brings her 4 kids over. My husband's watching the kids. Sometimes our neighbors or whoever comes over. So this is we're living it.
Yeah.
Caitlin and I are living it.
Literally.
When we record these episodes. And I buried the lead. We have new cities to announce. New cities added to the tour. Buffalo, Royal Oak, that's Detroit, basically. Let's say Detroit. Buffalo, Detroit, and Columbus, Ohio. I am coming your way. Buffalo, Detroit, Columbus, Ohio. And Caitlin, play our fine tour music that we have that will tell you the website of where you find all this.
She was dropped by her agent and manager on the same day. Iconic. Now she's entered her villain era, and she's back on tour anyway. Jen Fulwiler. Jen Fulwiler. She just can't be stopped. Jen Fulwiler. Takes at jfcomedytour.com. jfcomedytour.com.
Links are in the show notes to Buffalo, Detroit, and Columbus, as well as Phoenix, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Chicago, Kansas City, Omaha, and Des Moines. Definitely show up. Definitely come out. I cannot wait to see you guys. Or you can go directly to jfcomedytour.com. All right, I think I've covered all of the intro stuff. Now listen, I need your thoughts and your prayers and your good vibes, okay? This is a serious prayer request, okay? I've gotten too good at fantasy football. It's ruining my life. I am in 2 fantasy football leagues. One with some local friends of ours that Caitlin is also in. My husband is in that league. That's the Neighbors. We call it Neighbors. That's the Neighbors League. Then I am in Lino Ruli's fantasy football league. And I am number 1 of full 12 teams. You can't have more than 12. So these are fully stacked leagues. I am number 1 in both leagues, and I just won this past weekend. So now I'm like even a more solid number 1 than I was before. It's ruining my life because do you see Caitlin's facial expressions here? So
Guess who she
against? Yes. I beat Caitlin this week. I also beat my husband when I played him. And in Caitlin, I beat you by how many points?
1 point.
1 point. I beat
1 point. 1. Just 1.
And when I've said this before, that when we did the draft in Lino Ruli's league, Lino and his buddies were kind of making fun of my choices. Lino, actually, he made the statement. He's like, you don't even know who any of these people are who you drafted, do you? I was like, that's not true. I do follow this. And he's like, ha, ha, ha. And then he went through all of my players and was like, that guy's not a good player. That guy's not a good player. So funny that I am now number 1 in the league without a close second. So here's why I need your prayers. It's really not prayers for me. We need healing for Lino Ruli, because he used to have me on his show a lot. He hasn't invited me on his show since I started dominating his fantasy football league. And his radio show is very popular. It sells a lot of tickets to my stand-up comedy tour. After every show, when I meet people, I always hear a bunch of people are like, oh, I'm here from Lino's show. Like, I'm here, I bought tickets because I heard you on a show. I haven't been invited on his show since I've been dominating the fantasy football league. Now, me losing, we don't want to pray that I lose because, I'm I'm like DJ Khaled. All I do is win. That's obviously going to keep happening. But we need to pray for healing for him so that he will have me back on his show despite my extraordinary success. And maybe pray for healing for Caitlin. Pray for healing for my husband. Who I'm not sure that my husband is totally over this situation. Because when I told my husband that I was going to be in the League for Leno show, my husband was like, would you like my help? And I said, I'm good with data. I know a spreadsheet and I think I know how to win. So I think I know. And my husband had, kind of like okay, little lady, enjoy being last. And now I'm beating him and I'm beating everyone in this league and the other league. I told you, I know data. I know a spreadsheet. So we need to pray for healing for all involved because my winning is just destroying my relationships with a lot of people because I'm winning too much. So, but I'm telling you guys, next year, you need to do fantasy football. It really is a lot of fun, especially when you're truly excellent at it. It's really a lot of fun. So this is apropos of nothing. I just have to say it. And I'll probably put this one on social media because if we're being honest, it'll probably get good engagement. But I was thinking of this when I was coming back. I did a private event in New Orleans. Leave a comment on YouTube if you can explain this to me. Why do you guys sit next to your spouses or your traveling companions on airplanes if you're not flying first class? It is inconceivable to me, but everybody does it. I walk on planes and I see all these couples together and like talking to each other. And I'm like, what are you doing? What do you do? Listen, I will never understand sitting next to your spouse on a plane. There is no one in the world that I love enough to take a middle seat so that I can talk to them for like 3 hours. And nobody should love me that much either. There's no reason for anyone to have a middle seat who otherwise does not have to. Just both of you take a window seat and then you can just turn around and talk to each other if you want to talk. This doesn't make any sense to me. And I can confirm that I do this. So I've on multiple occasions, Caitlin has traveled with me to shows and we fly on the same flights. Have I ever sat us next to each other?
No,
because look, I'm not taking the middle seat. There's no way I would sit in a middle seat.
I wouldn't expect that.
But then, but I don't want Caitlin to sit in. I mean, to me, that would be an insult to Caitlin to be like, oh, you get the middle seat. And for what? We can talk. We can text. Like, look, here's the solution, guys. Just pay the $7 for Wi-Fi and text each other. Okay. If you can't go 3 hours without talking to your traveling companion, just pay the $7 for Wi-Fi and text each other. You can send each other funny memes. I have even done, I think one time I did do, I don't know if it was a FaceTime call, but it was you're not supposed to, but you can even do video conferencing stuff. You're really not supposed to, but I've done it and it's worked. Do that. I look at all of these couples sitting together on planes and I'm like, do you guys not do you not live together? Or did you just start dating? Did you both just get out of prison? Why are you doing this? And then, my mind is so crazy. I'm so, out there with the way I think. I'm like, look, also, something happens with this plane. Better that you're in different part of the plane so that one of you might survive, if I actually think about stuff like that. I really do. So leave a comment on YouTube and just tell me how I changed your mind on this. Just give me your testimony of how you were like, yeah, Jen, that actually doesn't make any sense. Why would one of us take a middle seat when we otherwise don't have to? Or my billionaire listeners can be like, well, we only fly first class, so there is no middle seat. So that solves that for us. Now that I can understand.
Yeah.
When the comedy millions come in, and Caitlin and I are both flying first class, well then, yes, forget everything I said about safety and everything else. Sure, we'll sit together and we can discuss who gets the window seat and the aisle seat. But yeah, there's no middle seat in first class. And when we fly private, Caitlin can have her side of the plane. I'll have my side of the plane. This, when the comedy millions get here, this is going to be a moot point. But for those of us who are not quite there yet, I do not understand
taking a middle seat so that you can have a couple of extra minutes of conversation with someone. So explain in the YouTube comments why you guys do this and how I've changed your mind about how you don't need to do this. Okay, this is kind of a transition topic into the main topic. I have my Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours in terms of getting over being perceived. As I said in the setup, that is a fear that a lot of people have. Just the idea of being really seen by other people. I do think we have a natural tendency to sort of fade into the woodwork. And there's a lot of philosophy that this happens more with women because of cultural conditioning. I don't know. That hasn't really been my experience. Maybe some women, I don't know, if you grew up in a cult, maybe. That I don't know. I didn't necessarily feel that as a woman. I do think there might be a level of just simply safety. I mean, if you're a young woman being out and about, yes, sometimes you do attract unwanted attention. So I don't think it's like the patriarchy. I think there is a little bit of a natural evolved, like, maybe we shouldn't draw attention to ourselves. But I have very much gotten over that. And I want to encourage you that I'm probably a good person to take advice from on this, because I shouldn't be okay with being perceived. I shouldn't be okay with leaving the house ever, because it's such a disaster. Yeah, some of you guys think I'm exaggerating about how neurodivergent I am. New listeners only. Regular listeners are like, no, we think you're underplaying it, Jen. Like, yeah, no, it's actually, yeah, we get it. Me leaving the house is an absolute train wreck disaster. So this happened at one of my recent shows. I was at a comedy club it's hard to get into. They tend to have pretty big names. Different comedy clubs have different reputations. And I want to say, for the record, all of the ones that I'm going to on this run, they're all great. I'm doing high level comedy clubs. But there was one that kind of stood out as like, this one really has some pretty big names. It's pretty hard to get booked there. We felt lucky that I got booked there. And so, I took my lack of fear of being perceived and my love of others that I wanted to just share. I love to share love and joy with people. And so when I arrived, I shook the general manager's hand and I looked him in the eye and I said, it is such an honor to finally play this club. I've heard so many good things and it's just so nice to meet you. He reminded me I was there 2 years ago and we had a long conversation, he and I did at that time. Why do I leave the house? Why? And then, and it almost made it weirder that then I was looking around the club like I was part of Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machines gang, trying to like piece together clues of like, do I remember
Was I?
any of this? And I was pretty stressed out the last time I was there, granted, but okay, to be honest, to this day, I'm like, I looked it up. I do have a payment from them. So I will say this. I can confirm that this club paid me, but maybe it's like a practical joke and they just sent me money 2 years ago and I wasn't really there. I mean, I knew I was in that city. I just didn't. Well, they say I was there. Okay. Oh, and you know what it was? There was something. Oh, I know. Okay. Yeah. There's a green room door that this clued me in that this wasn't a practical joke and I had been there before, because I would never forget this. There's a bathroom in the green room. It just, I just want to emphasize bathroom. So toilet, like where you would sit on a toilet, and just think of what happens for a minute when you sit on a toilet. Think of what state you're in. So you walk in through the green room door and then there's a second door that's catty corner from the main door. So the show had started. This is the first time I was there. See, the memories are flooding back now. And so I used the bathroom.
And I was done. I was about to head back into the green room. And then I was like, because my opener was on stage. And so I had a few minutes. And I was like, I wonder where this door goes, this second door. I opened it. It opens out into the audience.
Oh.
And it is like perfect view from the toilet. So if that door gets open while you are doing your business, it's like hundreds of people looking at you. So that's when I was like, oh, I have been here before, because I would not forget that. I would not forget that. And so then there was, so a lot of people I know came out to these recent runs of shows, which I love so much. It just blesses me so much. Some people I haven't connected with in a couple of years. You have to understand, I have the face blindness thing to a very extreme degree. And I get it from my father. One time years ago, there was a test of how good are you at recognizing faces. And they showed, there were like different pictures of men who look similar. And it was like, can you tell the difference? And Joe, my husband, showed it to my father and myself. And my dad and I both, spontaneous reaction, we laughed. We were like, yeah, so that's a joke. And Joe said, well, no, just remember this and then we're going to the next page. And my dad and I both said, well, that's all the same guy. And my husband was like, oh, who did I marry? It was a real, like, what are our children going to be like if this is, because I think this was before we had kids. He's like, what are our children going to be like if my wife and her father are like this crazy? To Joe, all of these faces look different. To my father and myself, this was a copy paste. I mean, we just couldn't. And it used to drive my mom crazy when we would watch movies as a family through the whole movie. My dad and I would be like, is that the same guy? Like, wait, why is she kissing the guy who murdered, the other person? And my mom would be like, one has a mustache and one doesn't. Like, what is your problem? Like, how are you so bad at this? So you have to understand that my face blindness is very, very extreme. So I want you guys to just sit for a minute. You know what? But just, I want you to pause this episode and take what you know of me and take this perhaps new to some of you information of how extreme my face blindness is, and just call to mind some of the absurd scenarios that must happen in my life because I encounter a lot of people. I'm out and about a lot in a public way, and I really shouldn't be. I mean, I have learned I can never say nice to meet you ever. It will be like we have, we've had 5 in-depth, really personal conversations. Like I can never ever say nice to meet you. And now, so this is here's a problem I have. I do not get recognized in public very often, but it does happen sometimes. People will say, oh, I love the podcast, or, oh, wait, I think I saw one of your clips. Are you a comic? It does happen sometimes. So, that moment when you're at the airport or at the store, wherever you're out shopping, you're at the dry cleaner, and someone is looking your direction and waving, and you're not sure if they are waving at you. Think about the living hell that my life is, that this could be someone who, like, they know me from the podcast. And of course, like, I love you guys. I would never want to be rude or blow you off. But they might not be. If it's crowded, like at my kids' football game, this happened multiple times where I saw people like smiling and waving. Listen, guys, because so I'm really bad with faces, but I am also an extreme people pleaser, and I am terrified of hurting people's feelings. So whenever anyone waves even remotely near my direction, I just smile and wave. I'm like, hey. And
we're old friends.
Yeah. And like, because I'm not well known, like 9 times out of 10, it is not for me. And then they're like, what is this person's problem? They're like, why is this random woman waving back at me? Does she think she knows me? And so then it's like awkward, a new direction. And I mean, I have people that they give me a really weird look, like, why do you think you know me? Like, why are you waving at me? And I want to be like, look, I'm so bad with faces. I mean, we could be like biological relatives. Like you could be my aunt and I probably wouldn't recognize you. So I'm just trying to be safe. So this is the state that I am in. And what I love is some of you guys know me so well that you help me with this. Like I thought it was funny. So this buddy of mine who I originally met through this podcast, her name is Nikki, and I'm going to give her a shout out. She runs a personal assistant company that specializes helping moms in Columbus. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, no excuse for being overwhelmed anymore. You hire one of Nikki's people. So her Instagram is Columbus Personal Assistance, but that's CBUS, CBUS Personal Assistance on Instagram. CBUS Personal Assistance. Just go let her solve all your problems. Okay, so we connected she came to a show. She made some amazing merch. And I mean, we text. I know Nikki. Of course. She walked up to me at my Cincinnati show and she was like, "Hi, Jen. I'm Nikki. We've had some conversations." And I was like, I love it that you know me that well. That you have to, it's like I'm special, and you can't just be like, "Jen, what's up?" Like you could with someone who's like normal and can function. And then someone else did it too. Sam, this wonderful gal who helped me. She was when I filmed my first comedy special, The Naughty Corner, available on YouTube. When I filmed that first special, she was my right-hand woman. It wouldn't have happened without her. I mean, it's insane what she did. I mean, it was like the whole thing happened really thanks to her. And so, I mean, we'd worked together extensively, but we hadn't been in touch as much since then, like 2019. And she did the same thing. She's like, "Hi, Jen, I'm Sam. I worked very intimately with you a few years ago, completely saved your life on the special." That she didn't phrase it like that, but it is funny that someone who I worked with so closely would understand, like, we need to tell Jen who I am, so that because this could, go either way. And, in her defense, so I hadn't seen her since 2019, and somebody walked up to me at the club and was like smiling at me and waving. This was before the show when I was setting stuff up, and I thought it might be her because they had the same color hair, which is, usually, and details get real fuzzy after that, like after hair color. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, hey, good to see you." But it turns out it was not anyone I'd ever met, just a fan. But I think she felt really like, "Oh, Jen likes it that I'm here." I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Wow, you made it." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I just bought tickets."
Sure did.
Yeah. So, if anyone ever wants to like con me, you could probably walk up to me and be like, "Hey, I'm your cousin." And I'd be like, "Oh, you changed your hair. That's crazy." No, you guys could walk up to me and be like, "I'm Caitlin." And if you're blonde, I might buy it. I mean, I am that like disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
So all of it. So this, and Caitlin's like, "Yeah." I mean, did
I
you
walk
hear
in the house some days and I'm like, "Hey,
Yeah.
it's me, Caitlin."
Yeah, it's
Remember
me. You're like, "Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Haven't seen you in a week.
Yeah, we've been good friends and coworkers for multiple years, and I used to live across the street. But yeah, I just want to remind you, it's me. So my grandfather, God rest his soul, my mother's father, he was a Bronze Star recipient in World War II, incredible guy. And he had a stroke where he became like, he couldn't speak very well, but he couldn't speak at all, but he was mentally like he was okay, but he just couldn't speak. So it was very sweet. My mom and her siblings made a laminated card, like they typed it up on a typewriter back in the day and laminated it. And it was very cool. It was a mini bio. It's like, "Hi, I'm Thomas Garrity. I won a Bronze Star in World War II. I'm not able to speak, but I understand everything you're saying, and I'm glad to meet you." And he would show that to people when he met them. So Caitlin, add to your to-do list. Yep. We need a laminated card. "Hi, I'm Jen. I spent a long time on my hair, so I probably look put together. I probably look like I can function in the world. We've probably met 7 times, and I probably just said, 'Nice to meet you.' But bear with me. I just can't recognize anyone ever, and I never know what I'm doing when I leave
like my bed. That's when it really goes downhill for me. Like I'm fine as long as I'm in my bed with a glowing screen in front of my face. Like I'm crushing it. I'm doing fine. But it gets a little dicey when we move out of that orbit. So, gosh, there was a guy who actually, his name is Brooks. He yelled at me multiple times. And unfortunately for Brooks, this is kind of on Brooks. I think he had a really generic face because this was way back in the day, but after like the third time I said, nice to meet you, he yelled at me like at a party, like in front of people. And he was like, you're just so full of yourself. Like, I can't believe you treat people this way. And I was like, no, I swear I just did not recognize you, which of course made it worse. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And I will never forget, we were leaving a restaurant one time and Joe like kind of kicked me like sort of forcefully. And I was like, wait, whoa, what did, and Joe was like, Brooks, who we've met multiple times. It is so good to see you again. Joe was so worried that I was going to walk up to him and say, nice to meet you. Cause that would have been like, if he had gotten violent, everyone would have been like, well, like that was coming. Okay. So I tell you all this to let you know that you are like, if I can get comfortable leaving the house and having people perceive me and see me and just think about me, that's what I mean by being perceived. It's like you are being noticed in some way. You're not blending into the woodwork. People are looking at you. They might even be forming opinions about what shape you're in, about your clothes, about whether you seem poor or rich, about whether your hair is good or bad, whether your skin is good or bad. We have a tendency to want to avoid that kind of thing, but I strongly encourage you to get over this, to work on this, because if you want to find that blue flame, that thing that it gives you energy when you do it, it's your love language to the world. Anything from like cooking to, God forbid, stand-up comedy to even making silly reels on Instagram to being a listener. One of my friends, that is her blue flame, is she's a listener. Like she'll go to nursing homes and just talk to lonely people and just listen, or like sports, or being a personal trainer. Like my personal trainer, good Lord, if there's anyone who has ever had a blue flame, it's her. Like she had to change the scheduling of my appointments because she felt like she wasn't being active enough during the week, and she wanted to take like an extra dance class to move her body more. If that is not a blue flame, I don't know what is. And she trains people and like keeps people like me from actually physically wasting away into an actual puddle. Blue flame. So it can be all sorts of different stuff, like sewing, knitting, whatever. And I think everyone should want to find that, because I think God gives us blue flames because it's a way that makes it fun for you to love others. It's like a really fun and easy way for you to love others. I like to imagine that God is up there like, man, these people, they're so annoying. These people, they're really insufferable, are they not? I mean, I've made some mistakes there, I wish I could take some of those guys back. But, nevertheless, you have to deal with these insufferable people. And it is hard to love them, but that is like, why I put you guys on this earth? You got to do it. So here's a blue flame. And it's something that you can produce or do or add to the world that is actually fun for you. But it is also a way that you love other people. Like a mom I know she makes cookies and cakes, like just from home. It's not a big business. She doesn't make a ton of money on it, but it funds her Sephora trips. She makes a little money, but the moms that she makes baby shower cakes for, or like cookies for a homecoming or a holiday party or graduation, they definitely feel loved. Like they see that this cake, these cookies, they like this person cares. And you just know when you are beholding the product of love, when someone has made something and they're like, man, I love doing this. Like, I just feel God working through me. I feel that God energy, that Holy Spirit getting all stirred up when I do this. Like, I love it.
it's a great feeling for you, but it's also a great feeling to be on the other side of that. Think of a book that you read or a movie you watched or a TV series you watched that just hit you. It just like you went to bed thinking about it in a good way. Not like some of this creepy true crime stuff. I mean, like in a good way. It made you, it put a pep in your step. It made you feel excited to be alive. That's, you're beholding the product of someone using their blue flame. That they are loving the world. They are sharing love with you by creating that TV series, by choosing to be a screenwriter, by choosing to be a director and a cinematographer. It's a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of blue flames coming together to create this thing that makes you feel more alive, that makes you feel loved by this group of other humans. It's a really beautiful thing, but you won't be able to find what your thing is if you are afraid of being perceived, if you're afraid of being seen. Because in order to be loved, you have to be seen. That was a bar. I mean, it just was.
Yep.
Hit this sound effect. How is this podcast free? I mean, come on. Name a podcast where you get more good information, just interesting insights. I think that's interesting, actually. And to be honest, it just came to me. That wasn't in the show notes.
We're riffing
That
now.
was, yeah, God, I think God sent that one to you guys, honestly. And I think actually even in relationships, sometimes that is a problem of people having close relationships with their kids or with their spouses that they don't even realize they have this issue, but they're afraid of really being seen. I mean, seen, really being seen emotionally. If we're talking about marriage, like being seen physically, I mean, being seen in every way. And if you have a fear of that, then you can't really love other people. And you dang sure can't find your blue flame. It reminds me of this great nun. What is her name? Her brother is Father Albert. And I remember that because I was talking to him one time, a good New Orleans guy, and he was saying that a lot of people thought his name was Al, first name Al, last name Bear, but it's Albert, but pronounced the French way. Oh. So, but everyone thought he was Father Bear. They'd call him Father Bear. But so Father Albert, I'm sure, the Catholic ghetto is a small world. I'm sure some of you guys know who I'm talking about. So his sister, I feel like Hayes is their last name, but I could also be making that up. Oh, Bridget Hayes. Yes, I think that's it. Sister Bridget. Well, whatever. Probably her. Okay. The point is, I've told you guys this before. It's a great piece of advice. She has a great quote where she says, when you walk into a room, you need to sparkle with self-forgetfulness. I love that. Sparkle with self-forgetfulness. Meaning, if you are afraid of being seen, if you are afraid of being perceived, the wall you put up is this insecurity of self-focused thoughts. People can tell that I got these pants at Walmart on sale. They think that I'm poor. They can tell that my jewelry is from Shein. They think this is a bad haircut. People think I'm fat. People think that whatever, like blah, blah, blah. And so that is your protective barrier, is all of these insecurities. And so who are you focused on in that moment? Not other people. Who are you sharing love with? Nobody. You have shut down the love generator within you because you're focused on yourself, because you have to put up that force field to protect you from being seen. You have to put up that force field to protect you from being seen. And by the way Sister Bridget says it is because she's from New Orleans, she would say sparkle with self-forgetfulness. And that, I think that makes it easier to remember if you say sparkle with self-forgetfulness. And you know what? Hang on, hit the tangent alert button.
I have been thinking, what if I did a lock screen for some of these episodes that had like a good, like, what if I did a lock screen with the quote, like, sparkle with self-forgetfulness? Should I do that?
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Okay, I'll put it in the show notes. And I'm doing these myself. Look, I love Canva. I'm going to do it myself. Look in the show notes. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you have to hit like the 3 dots. Caitlin, don't let me forget. I will do a sparkle with self-forgetfulness lock screen for you guys if you want to remember that quote. We should do that more often. I like that idea. Okay, and I'll give sister, I'll get the spelling of her name. I will not be one of those people like these influencers you see, they take someone else's quote like sparkle with self-forgetfulness, Jen Fulwiler. Like, I will not do
me.
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so check the show notes. That no matter where you're listening to this or watching it, YouTube, whatever, there you can see the tour cities, so you can buy lots of tickets. But then we'll do a lock screen. That'll be fun. Okay, so you can't have your force field of your fear of being seen up and love people. And you know your force field is up when you are speculating about other people's the bad things they might think about you, and including even if they're right. Because if I were to be like, the manager of this comedy club thinks I'm a diva and an idiot, like, I'd be right. I mean, that's, who doesn't remember that they played this really prestigious club not that long ago and that we had a conversation? Like, yeah. And I remember when I was first dating my husband, I thought, because, he has many Ivy League degrees, he's a highly educated person. And when I was hanging out with some of his friends from Stanford, I did not know how to sparkle with self-forgetfulness. And so I walked around with all these insecurities. I was like, people don't think that I am educated enough for him, because I just went to a state school. I went to UT, which, some people would think that's fine, but, not like in the world that he came from. And so I had that force field up. Like, I was afraid of being seen because people might judge me. And I was exactly right. That was actually confirmed that people thought that and said to my face by a couple of people, trying to figure out why my husband was with me, and someone who had such an abysmal resume and such a, like, just bad, not an impressive educational background, because UT does not count for these people. It wasn't all his, I should say that it was not by any means his good friends or all his friends from there, but there were a couple of rogue, mouthy people who did actually have something to say. So, like, I'm usually right when I think people are judging me. I mean, look at the comments I get. Like, if I'm like, I think that some people think I'm horrible and hate me and wish I would go away. Well, you can read the comments to a lot of my posts, and they're like, I think Jen is horrible and I hate her. And like, I mean, I'm right. Okay. But if you let that keep your force field up, then you will never love other people. And again, one of the ways you love other people is by finding and using your blue flame. And the way you really need to think of it as an art. If you fear, let's say there's an assembly at your kid's school and you show up late and you have to walk in front of all the bleachers and all the parents are assembled in the bleachers and everyone's looking at you. Have you ever had one of those moments, Caitlin, where it's like, and it is, I mean, it's a little,
like, hey guys.
Yeah. Everyone's like, wow, she doesn't have her life together. And they actually probably are thinking that, they're like, I wish she would get out of the way. And if it's me, I'm definitely doing something wrong. Like, I'm 100. Oh, well, yes, actually, yes, I forgot. At the senior presentation last year, I was like trying to be cool. Like, yeah, that's right. Showing up. I'm only 5 minutes late. This is fine. And I took a seat and I'm sitting with other adults. This is where the parents sit. Nay, friends, nay. It was where the teachers sit. So, like, for sure, people are actually judging me. And to get over that, it really is an art. It's like playing a sport. It's like developing a skill at art. It's like if you wanted to learn how to paint, you wouldn't expect to be a master painter tomorrow. But if you dedicated yourself to it, and if you said, you know, I'd like to practice this, I'd like to get good at it, you could be pretty dang good if you keep it up. And I want to encourage you to really throw yourself into the art of being seen. Or more accurately, the art of being okay with being seen. And one of the things that has helped me the most is to know that in any situation where you are dealing with a group of people, immediately people are desperate for a leader. Part of the tension that you feel when you walk into a gathering, a party, a PTA meeting, class thing at your kid's school, part of the tension you feel when a bunch of people are standing around is that there's no leader. Notice that feeling that is just hanging in the air. That feeling that's like, okay, could someone like take control here, or like, just do something? If it's a party, like could we have a breakdancing contest or play Twister or just anything? Like, can someone take the lead and maybe introduce people to each other? If you've ever been at a party where the host was a great leader, where you walk in and they're like, we'll use Nikki for an example. Like, Nikki, so good to meet you. This wouldn't be me because I wouldn't recognize anyone, but like it's someone like who's good at life. Like, Nikki, so good to meet you. You know what? You run a personal assistant business in Columbus. My friend runs a personal assistant business in San Diego. You guys should talk, like maybe trade tips. Isn't that refreshing when there is a leader in the room? Think about the relief you feel in social situations when you are in the presence of a leader. Imagine, probably all of us have been to things where the parents show up to the kids' class for a little class party or whatever. When you have teachers who are leaders, like, oh, Mrs. Fulwiler, welcome. So good to see you. If you could help with the glitter craft station, because I hate you, so that will be what you do. But, it feels good when they're like, hey, good to see you. Here's the plan. If you and Mrs. Smith over here could work with this, it just feels so good. Now imagine the situation where the teacher is just not being a leader and is probably out of a misguided sense of wanting to be nice. Just like, oh yeah, well, okay, you guys can do whatever. Very well intentioned, but it adds so much tension to the room because everyone wants someone else to take charge. I promise you, in 99 out of 100 awkward social moments that you are in, nobody really feels like they know what they're doing, and everyone really wishes that someone would just have leader energy. And I say leader energy specifically, even if you don't know what is supposed to be going on, even if you're at a party and it's not your house, so you can't be like, let's put on some crazy underground hip hop and like get this party started. Maybe it's not your house and you can't do that. But to just have leader energy, like boldly walking up to people like, hi, how are you? Again, I can't do any of this because I can't recognize people, but you could do this. Like, hi, my name is so-and-so. Great to meet you. How do you know the host? Feel the palpable relief in other people when you bring leader energy to awkward social situations. And here's the big thing. Feel how much more it makes you okay with being seen. I think that one of the quickest ways to master the art of being seen, the art of being okay with being seen, is to have that leader energy where you just kind of have an attitude of like, my outfit is fine. My weight is fine. My hair is fine. And I don't care if you're 30 pounds over where you want to be and you've just got the worst haircut, like someone just took a weed whacker to your hair and, and all of your clothes are from the Walmart discount bin. Hey, if you wore it, it was a good decision. This is what everyone should be wearing. These people should be embarrassed that they go to their expensive salons instead of, letting the lawn guy just take the weed eater and, give you a quick haircut while he's there. Like, you need to have that energy.
of, look, if I'm wearing it, obviously it's good. Like, obviously this is a decent decision because I generally make pretty good decisions. So the way I look and the way I'm choosing to carry myself, or like in my case with my educational background vis-a-vis my husband and his friends, like, look, if I did it, it's pretty great, like, because I make pretty good decisions. So everybody can relax and let's just move this party forward. Because notice that the best leaders, the really good leaders, people who just have a natural knack of making people feel comfortable and kind of all motivated the same direction, notice that they are not self-focused. They are not self-conscious. They kind of have this attitude of like, yeah, I'm wearing what I'm wearing, whatever, like, let's move on. Not in an arrogant way, not that I have the best outfit anyone's ever seen, but just, look, guys, it's fine. Like, you guys don't need to worry about whether my tie matches my shoes or whatever, because like, chop, we got stuff to do here. They are sparkling with self-forgetfulness. And great leaders always do that. And I mean, again, think of someone in history. Think of Caesar. You guys know me. I mean, my Roman Empire is the Roman Empire. Like, I'm like a man. I really do think of the Roman Empire like all the time. Winston Churchill, Caesar, I mean, just like any great leader, they were not self-conscious. I mean, they weren't sitting around and thinking about themselves and worrying about, do people like my haircut? Like, do people like my robe? Like in Caesar's case, like, but I mean, it just, because leader energy is other focused energy. And I would say, this is ultimately the point I'm leading up to here, that I think that being a leader in a good, kind, other focused way, I think it's ultimately an act of love. I think it is a way you can love other people because you are stepping out of that very self-focused, like black hole energy. You're stepping out of that energy that is like, it's a very dark, feeling, when you're just sitting there like you need love from everyone else. Like people need to tell me my dress is pretty. People need to tell me they like my makeup. People need to tell me that I look at people need to assure me that I didn't sit in the wrong section at the assembly, even though I actually did. When you're in that energy of like, I need that affirmation. I have the wall up because I'm so afraid of being seen. That's not loving. It's not loving anyone. It's not loving yourself, and it's dang sure not loving other people. But I mean, imagine walking into the assembly with just some fun leader energy. Like, yes, I sat with the teachers. That's right, because I respect our teachers at this school. Who wants to join me? Come sit. Yes, the round of applause for our teachers. Who wants to join me? I mean, I think that would bring a lot of relief to everyone, because then they don't need to worry about you. Because when you're being awkward, and it's clear that you feel awkward, that puts something on everyone else's to-do list. Because now they're like, oh, look at this poor, awkward woman. Like, she clearly doesn't know where she is in space and time. And this is clearly stressing her out. And so I was trying to sit here and focus on, my kid at this assembly and my family. But now I feel like I need to reassure her because it seems like she's having a hard time. Whereas if that person, me in this example, just brought leader energy to it, like, yeah, that's right, I'm sitting with the teachers. That's what we all need to be doing. You can take worry about that person off of your to-do list. And then you can maybe even receive love from that person. So like we've got the holidays coming up, and if you're invited to parties or anything like that, even like your extended family Thanksgiving, for those of you who are not living at the tail end of a demographic apocalypse like I and my children are, I bet you guys have extended family and like big Thanksgivings and things like that. And even hanging out with family can bring up that fear of being seen. But just notice how when you step into leader energy, which I have come to believe is frankly another way of saying love energy, where you take the focus off yourself and you put it onto other people, notice how it not only makes you okay with being seen,
but it makes other people so much more comfortable, and it allows you to love them and to receive love from them. And then everything opens up. It just cracks open everything, including, I think you will find it much more easy to find your blue flame. I think that's a block that some of you guys have had. I don't think it's conscious, but I think deep in your subconscious, you're thinking, yeah, I mean, you know, I did always want to paint, but just like with any other blue flame, I ain't doing it for me. You're not painting pictures just for you to look at them. And so if you do get into painting, sculpting, you know, even gardening, you know, it's for other people, and you will definitely be seen. And if you have a deep subconscious terror of being seen, you'll find little subtle ways that you don't even notice to subconsciously sabotage your quest for your blue flame. So get comfortable with the art of being okay with being seen, and watch how your life opens up. How is this podcast for you? We don't know, but go ahead, Caitlin. The Patreon State of the Dumpster Fire, Patreon Live. This will be probably used as evidence in a court case one day. It'll be Friday. I'll put the details up on Patreon. Don't forget, you can get the lock screen. This is a new idea beamed into my brain from the good ideas realm. Check the show notes for the lock screen, and I'll be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.